Hey, everybody. We're back today again for another look at the movies. This time we picked a director out, the great Alfred Hitchcock, the Master of Suspense. I'm here with Brian, AYBL Maine. Check his channel out. He's flourishing big time right now. Sub him up if you haven't already. JJ, 22 Explosive Hits. Recently did a Bob Dylan video with the top 10 songs with JJ. We had a good time doing that. So check that out. Sub his channel. Doc, our regular movie guy, is here with us as well. And I just want to give a shout out before I start to John over in Thailand, who's a regular commenter and a guy who checks our channel out, both music and movies. He's got two channels, John's Reviews of Movies and John's Music Passions. Check those channels out. This guy's a loyal subscriber to our channel. He does movies, he does music, does a great job. He's very thorough in his analysis. So check him out.
He does a good job.
Real good job. As far as Alfred Hitchcock, the Master of Suspense, like I said, his career spanned from the silent era of the late 20s all the way through to 1976 with his last film, Family Plot. So a massive career, worked with leading men, all the great giants of the golden era, talking Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, Laurence Olivier, Gregory Peck, Paul Newman, the list goes on. And he had a thing for blondes as well, as we all know. Grace Kelly, Doris Day, Kim Novak, Janet Leigh, Tippi Hedren, Eva St. Marie, all these wonderful actresses with the blonde hair. So we're going to dive into Alfred. We're going to do a top 10 films. We're going to go 10 through 6. Doc, JJ, Brian, and myself will be the order. So, Doc, you want to start us off?
All right, sounds good. Man, I mean, I know we're doing a top 10 and everything else like this, but I mean, they're all personal. They're a list here, but this guy's got way more than 10 really good movies. So, it's,
no doubt.
This is we could have a whole bunch of different names that we hear as we go here, but
yep.
I'll be honest with you, I thought I had my 10 like squared away like a long time ago until like 2 hours ago I changed my number 10.
Oh,
so,
my goodness.
Yeah, I really did, thinking about the
off
movies
the press.
Yeah.
We can talk about the honorable mentions maybe later, because I'm sort of going to float as we get people's lists and stuff. But my number 10 is Frenzy, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Later in his career,
yeah, later. It's, I think it's 70s, early 70s, 72. I think he did this. John Finch and Barry Foster in this one. I like this movie for a lot of reasons, for it being a Hitchcock, because it's not really a Hitchcockish kind of movie in one sense. You know who the killer is, like you find out during the story, and there's a whole bunch of backstory with it as it goes and stuff like this. So he is the master of suspense. He gives you the thrills, and that's for sure. And, he can scare the hell out of you at certain times and stuff like that. But this was a different kind of Hitchcock kind of vibe. And maybe outside of a regular Hitchcock kind of flick. And I think that's why it makes my top 10, because it shows he's not just almost, shall we say, he's not one dimensional, but I mean, he shows you a lot of different things throughout his movies, but this even shows a little bit more, I think, on what the guy can actually do. So it makes my top 10 for that reason, actually. Yeah. So,
okay.
Number 9, man, I'll tell you, these were tough to put in order. Rope is number 9 for me.
Nice.
Okay.
Lots to like.
Right? Farley Granger, right? He was the lead man.
Yeah. Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, and John Dahl.
John Dahl, Jimmy Stewart. Yep.
Hume Crone
wrote it.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
It's he does different things in his movies, right? He can have an action scene and be all over the earth kind of thing on some of his movies, or you can be in one setting. And when he does those stage kind of movies or play kind of setting movies, he does both very well. And this is an instance here where he's doing that stage setting or play setting kind of flick, where it's all in one motion, all in one shot, almost, the way he does this. And it's it's a pretty seedy movie, and he has a lot of this throughout his movies anyway, but it's pretty dark, and the extremes of humans as we go through his list here and what they're willing to do on certain things just for being humans. He really exploits that throughout his movies, and I think Rope does a really good job at that as well. And it's a pretty tense flick, man, for what it is. So I really liked Rope. So
Good one.
that's my number 9. Number 8, man. Okay, it's Rebecca at number 8 for me. Man, what a great flick. I mean, it's this could go anywhere, right? This could be like somebody's number 2 or 3, I could say too, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a really good movie. But I mean, talk about like Laurence Olivier is fantastic in this movie. So that's right out the gate, and so is Joan Fontaine. So
Yeah.
But talk about it like the movie's Rebecca. You never see Rebecca. You don't know what Rebecca looked like or anything else like that. Any, there is some themes throughout all these movies, not just Hitchcock, but out through that era. Falling in love and a girl meeting a guy and stuff like that and getting married was not that hard in the movies throughout any of these things anyway, right? I mean, that was 5 minutes of your story to find out how fast that could actually happen. So they didn't dwell on a lot of that. Maybe a little bit more character development later on, let's say, in like a frenzy or something to that effect. But
the suspension of disbelief was that they waited a year to get married.
That's right. Yeah. Meanwhile, I was like, all right, what are you doing next weekend? Here we go. So, but like Rebecca, you never saw, you didn't know her. And that's what the movie's based on. Rebecca, that he was his first wife, murdered when he marries Joan Fontaine's character, and we know her just as his wife. We don't even know her name. So it's kind of neat the way that they played off both like the female lead and the character that it's based on. You don't know any of them, or you don't see one and you don't know one's name, kind of thing. It's kind of what a way to go through the whole movie like that. And Sir Laurence Olivier is the glue that keeps that one going. He's really good in that flick, man. So did somebody kill his first wife? And that's the backstory on a lot of these things that go. So Rebecca's in at number 8 for me. Number 7, Strangers on a Train. That's what a dark flick this is, man. Talk about a whack job here. Holy cow. Robert Walker is just a
nice,
menacing.
But let's face it, Hitchcock just explores all these seedy little parts in the human psyche throughout all his movies and stuff. He's just going after, all right, this guy's a whack job, and this guy, how far will this person go? He really pushes a lot of buttons on the human side of things. So, and he exploits it throughout all his movies. So, Strangers on a Train, yeah. I mean, this is a psychopath, man. This is some guy that it's just it's almost hard to describe what actually is happening. What we're I knock off somebody for me, you knock off somebody for me, and nobody's going to know any different. We're 2 towns over, or whatever the case may be, and it's like no one's going to suspect I did yours, or vice versa. Well, one guy's all in on it, and the other guy really isn't all in on it at all. He's got nothing like that. So,
I mean, everybody complains about their spouse to another guy, right? I mean,
come on.
That's what you're supposed to do on the train. Yeah, the old lady.
But the honorable mention on that one has to be throw mama from the train.
That's right. But Strangers on a Train, I mean, that's
that's great.
Yeah, like I said, these movies, he shows you a little different, something different as we move along in all of them. And Strangers on a Train, like I said, the top 10, there's a top 15 or top 20 that are pretty solid. So my number 6 is Notorious for me. Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman and Claude Rains. It's the love story and the spy story that are intertwined in this whole movie is just he's good at the thriller side, man. And it's talk about leaving the bad guy hanging at the end or whatever just to reap his own reward and stuff like that. He knows it's coming, he can't do anything about it, and Grant doesn't give a damn about how it unfolds anyway. So just shows you the love that he had for Ingrid Bergman as it went along and stuff like that, as much as she had her flaws as a character. Being a spy infiltrating the Nazis during the war, and the undertone, I think they've got somebody here they can trust, and they really don't. So that would round out my top 5 starting off. I'd say it's Notorious.
Good.
Those are good. 3 of them I had in my top 10 a year ago, and I kicked them out for 3 more, but they're all great films. Like you said, you could have a top 20 or easily, and they're all going to be quality films. So great job. What do you have, JJ, in your top, or 10 through 6 rather?
Okay, this one's gonna be an interesting one, I think, than our other discussions. I think we're all gonna go woo. But my prediction, First, number 10 that I picked is I Confess from 1953 with Montgomery Clift.
Nice.
That one
I just saw
suspends
that recently. Yeah.
that one suspends the whole, Catholic belief of, that the whole, what they hear in confession, and really tested that whole theory of that. And Montgomery Clift, I think, did an amazing performance in that particular film. Again, black and white, but it still screams out, again, he really does that whole thing with the psyche, has you thinking like, whoa, this is really what they have to do. My number 9 is The 39 Steps from 1935, Robert Durant. Basically, this is a whole film of, trust and betrayal, played in large parts. Alfred Hitchcock's I think it's probably one of his most noble works. And it just really had that classic Hitchcock theme to it. And it was very early on. I remember, I guess, maybe just one of those films. And Brian, you and I had this in common. I just stuck with me since film school, and it's always been kind of in the back of my mind that I really always went with that one. My number 8 is Catch a Thief from 1955 with Cary Grant, Grace Kelly. Again, the whole idea that the cat burglar has long since retired, and then all of a sudden gets kind of pulled back in, and the whole story is just really, I really enjoy it, and it's always been top on my list as far as his Hitchcock films. Number 7 I picked is Vertigo with Jim Stewart and Kim Novak. Again, I like how he explores that whole thing with the police officer, who suffers from an intense fear of heights and is, has to prevent friend's wife from committing suicide, but it's just this whole intertwined thing. And I also know, as a side note, it's one that Hitchcock spent a long time working on the script on that one, and it really explored a lot of different avenues. Number 6, I need to preface, is The Man Who Knew Too Much, the 1956 version, because I never saw the other one, but that one still makes my top 10 list.
The Man Who Knew Too Much originally, that was the one before 39 Steps. He that just before that, the original. Okay.
Yeah. It was one of his films that he actually remade it.
Right.
And he wanted, it's kind of like, because he had more color, more money, more budget, he wanted to go back and remake that film. In that whole film with the whole kidnapping and the whole, the way it's on, the whole just, kind of remind me of that whole Indiana Jones, I guess from my era, Indiana Jones-esque kind of added, like all of a sudden he's just pulled into this whole story, and it's like not expecting it to come along. And the way now we're going down a tunnel with this family that wasn't expecting that to come about. So that is mine, top 10 through 6.
Very good. See, we're all over the map here. That's good. That shows you how many quality films he had.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Totally.
Very good. What do you got, Brian?
Okay, Doc, you and I are a little bit similar here. I've got number 10. I've got Rebecca, 1940. Like Doc said, you don't see who Rebecca actually is. How cool are, what really was great about this? I love Laurence, Olivier. I also love the lady who played Mrs. Danvers. I thought she did a really good job.
Yeah.
And how cool is the name of the guy, right? I mean, the guy, Maxim de Winter. I mean, somebody was like making up these really cool names or what. And it's not the last time that Hitchcock would, adapt a screenplay from a book by Daphne du Maurier either. So, I mean, that seems to be a common thing. He likes her material, it seems. So I really like the film for the fact that, we never do know who the wife was, what she looked like, or anything like that. It just seemed like that wasn't necessary because her presence was always in the house anyway, by the way he acted, by the way Mrs. Danvers acted and everything. So it wasn't necessary. Number 9 for me, and Doc and I kind of like, we're joking about this for the last couple of weeks and everything, because I didn't know whether I was going to have it in the top 10. And I said, all right, listen, because it is significant for filmmaking, I went ahead and put The Birds at number 9. But I'm going to tell you this: if you remove the supernatural horror from this movie, the story is weak. I mean, it's actually really weak. It really comes down to a female stalker following this guy to an island, then inquiring about a little girl's name when she goes to a school, which that has Amber Alert written all over it. And basically the rest of it would be just a massive case of bird shit everywhere. I mean, everything else is just it was just so weak when I thought about it. I'm like, wow, I can't believe how weak this storyline is. And it just wasn't. I know that the producers, came to Hitchcock, hired the screenwriter to do it, and he said he needed him to soup it up. But I think what happened was he got away from the original material by Daphne du Maurier too much, and tried to make it into this supernatural horror instead of kind of going by what was already there. And I think that's what kind of diminished it. But I wanted to keep it in the top 10 because I did think that, it's a memorable movie. And it is an important movie in his library, I think. So I kept it there.
I have to say, a side note, that one real quick, Brian, that has the funnest trailers if you ever watch.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Hitchcock did commercials for that one. That, to me, of all the ones, The Birds is the funnest commercials.
Oh, yeah. Quick trivia, too. His little sister was played by Victoria.
Veronica Cartwright.
Yep. Not Veronica Cartwright. That's right. Yeah, she played the little girl, right? Yeah, the little dinner girl. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Number 8 for me, I had Strangers on a Train. I always when I first saw this, I loved the whole part of it. Robert Walker as Bruno Antony. I mean, just a complete psychopathic thing. And then you juxtapose that against a guy who's just a tennis player, who could be who could be any less assuming or than that, and really it comes down to, like, I think I thought about it, I'm going, well, what's the MacGuffin here? It's the cigarette lighter, right? I'm always looking for the MacGuffin in Hitchcock movies. And the fact that he left his cigarette lighter behind ends up being like the MacGuffin that kind of sets everything into motion. I like the ending too, where like a stranger tries to talk to them on the train when he's with his girl, and they just get up and walk off like, yeah, we ain't
all right. See you, man. I'm out of here. That's right.
I'm not doing that. I don't care how rude we are. So number 7, I've got Notorious. Of course, it's got my boy Cary Grant in it, right? And it's got I love Cary, and it's got Ingrid in there, and maybe the most sophisticated villain of his time. I mean, if one of the most sophisticated villains of all time, I probably would have Jeremy Irons, maybe just a little higher than him. But Claude Rains, like, Mr. Sophistication, but scary all at the same time. He just knocks it right out there. Is Sebastian Constantine his name, or is Sebastian his last name in that film? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but really just incredible job by Claude Rains in that film too. And the tension when he's descending the staircase with Ingrid, and you're wondering what's going to actually happen here. It's just great. I mean, that's a Hitchcock thing for you. So, and number 6 for me, I've got Spellbound. I know that's a little bit of it's a little bit of a psychological drama more than some of his other stuff is. It has a guy pretending to be a replacement doctor for this other guy, and basically the whole drama surrounding that. And it's just going back to psychosis from early childhoods. I guess, Hitchcock really liked to zero in on people's phobias and make that like the driving force of the narrative of films and stuff. And when you start to dissect, as Gregory Peck, correct? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Gregory Peck's character. When he starts to be dissected on the couch by her and by her colleague from the university, that's when you start to say, wow, you take some random event in somebody's childhood when in their younger years and how that can expound upon them as an adult. It's just incredible. Really good. I thought the biggest piece of trivia that I took from it as an art major was the fact that Salvador Dali put all that effort into the conceptual part of the dream sequences of Spellbound, and probably 90% of it got cut out of the film because they just said it just made the dream sequences were too long. So they took most of it out. But I thought I thought it was great. I watched it in film class, and we talked about it for a long time. I thought the dream sequences were fantastic. So
very good.
That's mine.
Yeah, Notorious and Rebecca were very hard for me to leave off, but I left them off. For the same reason that Brian said, my number 10 is The Birds. It had to make the list just for nostalgia. It's a big part of my childhood. This is one of those movies that showed up every year, and late night TV a lot of times, and I just remember watching it and being scared to death. And when you're a kid, you see these birds and you're thinking that really happened. And,
I'm laughing because I thought the same thing. I remember watching that at my buddy's house, and he lived like 3 blocks from the house. And I remember looking up every bird I saw. I was like, ooh,
I know. And it was something I look forward to. It was like the Wizard of Oz every year. It would show up. You had to watch it. I know it's not a real deep movie, and it's got some memorable scenes though. That schoolyard scene, the guy dropping the cigarette at the gas station. There's a lot of suspense in that. Just the people at the window screaming. The phone booth where she gets attacked in the phone booth.
Yeah,
there's a lot of little scenes that add up to something. The attack on the house, the attic, the whole 9 yards. It takes a long time to get there, but eventually it works as a horror thriller suspense movie. My number 9 is one we haven't discussed yet. That's Shadow of a Doubt. 1943 with Joseph Cotton and Teresa Wright. I like this film. I watched it about a month ago. This guy shows up, Uncle Charlie, real charismatic, charming. Underneath, he's this monster who was on the run from another crime he's committed. He shows up in Santa Rosa, California, with some relatives. His niece is like thrilled that he's there. She has no idea the real character and his real identity. It's one of these slow burns, small town America at the time, and eventually, piece by piece, the onion is peeled, and this Joseph Cotton is a real terror in this movie. I'm a big Teresa Wright fan too. She always plays like the girl next door.
Oh yeah, she was great in Best Years of Our Lives and this.
Yeah, all those kind of films. Beautiful girl, kind of. I wouldn't say plain. She was a pretty girl, but dark haired, and she was just so likable that she was a good victim. I guess these guys always prey on her for some reason. I like the way Hitchcock lets the story unfold, and eventually you have that classic ending. And again, it takes place on a train. He's trying to escape on the train. Number 8 is The 39 Steps, early Hitchcock. What a masterpiece this is. I love this film. It's a plot-driven movie. It's got the espionage, the romance. There's a chase scene, murder, mystery, everything you can do, twists and turns. It's a must-see for all the Hitchcock completists. I know it goes back to 1935. It's a long time ago. It's 80 plus years ago, whatever. But it's worth checking out if you haven't seen it.
But let's face it, Rich, on 39 Steps there, man, that guy's going all over God's green earth when he's running from everybody.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a great flick.
It is.
Fantastic.
And there's a it's kind of sexy in the beginning of the movie with Robert Donat and this Madeline Carroll too. I think she's taking her stockings off. It's pretty risque for back in those days.
No, that's right.
He always
Hanging by the
pushed
fire.
that stuff.
Yeah, he's good. He's got that voyeuristic thing going on where, he wants to show you a little bit.
Hitchcock was one for pushing it no matter what era.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether you're talking about Frenzy or another one we haven't mentioned yet, when we get to it, I'm sure that we can talk about one of the occupations of one of the leads in there. It was kind of risque. So.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 7 is another one we haven't discussed yet. Lifeboat from 1944.
Oh, yes.
This is kind of experimental because it all takes place on the lifeboat. These guys are survivors of a ship. There's like 7 characters. One happens to be a German villain. This is shot in 1944, right at the height of Nazi hate. There's propaganda going on here. It's just a terrific suspense film. Claustrophobic in a way. They're all you find out who the different characters are on the film and on the boat, I should say. Very suspenseful. Again, it's all done with camera work, and he's the master of that. He's challenged by how can I make this interesting, and somehow he does.
Right.
That's the creative juice that a director has. How can I turn this into something that is watchable to the viewer? And he does it with rope. He does it with this. And just for the record, there's a little tidbit. Speaking of a little bit seedy stuff, Tallulah Bankhead was the lead in that. And reportedly, she did not wear underwear during the entire shoot.
Oh my God.
For whatever that's worth, on a lifeboat.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's more Hitchcock nuance. Number 6 is one we've talked about, Rope. Great psychological crime thriller. It's kind of gimmicky in a way, the way he shoots. I guess it's 7 or 8 reels, and then there's no real edits per se. It's all done with the camera, having the camera in the right place, choreographed. It's a challenge for a filmmaker, very few cuts. And it gives you that real time feeling, like you're never leaving this drawing room where all the action's taking place. A lot of dialogue, a lot of conversation. Just great stuff. Great. The actors he got were perfect. It's like going to a play, like Doc said. John Dahl, Farley Granger, and Jimmy Stewart. And all the tension flows around this body that's stuffed into a chest or something within the room itself. Very tense. I really liked it a lot, and I'll watch that whenever it's on. 2 young, intelligent intellectuals who want to prove they can commit the perfect murder. So, very good. That would be my
Nice.
6. All right, so we're going to roll around. We're going to go 5 through 2, starting with Doc, and then we'll save our number 1s and we'll hit them at the end.
5 through 2. I'll say this is pretty funny. My original list, 39 Steps, was my number 10. And then when I did my second list, The Man Who Knew Too Much was my number 10. And then I ended up going with Frenzy. So
Yeah.
Number 5. So I'm going 5 through 2, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
Right.
5 through 2. 5, pretty easy for me. Vertigo is number 5 for me. So it's almost like 2 movies in one, this movie.
It is.
Yep.
Talk about a psychological kind of flick in this one here, James Stewart doing a real 180 halfway through the flick, and he's the one that actually, the Vertigo part of it is obviously a piece of the movie and stuff like that, but it's not really a big part of the movie in one sense either, it's, Kim Novak and everything else that's behind it, the driving story behind Vertigo itself is, man, pretty unique. Definitely creepy. It's stunning. It's awesome to look at. This flick. This movie is really good. Probably his best visual movie. That, or I think Rebecca has the same kind of feel to me in one sense. I thought that was really, really shot well as well. So
Yeah.
Vertigo is a classic, man. These, and we're in the top 5 here. I'm picking top 5 Hitchcock for me. This is, but going on what day of the week it is, I'll watch one of these Monday to Friday. So 5 at Vertigo. Number 4, always like this movie. It's Dial M for Murder for me.
Nice.
Nice.
Ray Milland is such a creepy, cold-hearted bastard in this flick, man. It's
True.
talk about not having any scruples as a human. My God, it's cold-hearted. It is cold, right down the core, strictly for cash, right? And Grace Kelly and the way it's set up, and it's got another one of those, let's face it, maybe one scene at the restaurant with Ray Milland going for dinner. Everything else is in the apartment, man.
Yeah.
It's another one of those, like, here it is here, looking out the window and stuff, maybe some street shots and stuff, but you get the idea. When Hitchcock does these kind of movies, man, he's really good at it as well. So you're in the movie, and I really like that aspect of it as well. So Dial M for Murder, great mystery, just a great flick. I mean, it's got a whole bunch of scenes to it that are when they pile on each other, and it builds up a lot of tension as you go in this flick as well. So Dial M is a classic, actually. So 3 is, like I was saying, this was like one of my favorite movies, definitely at certain parts of my life for sure. This was my favorite movie, but it just lands here now. It's Rear Window at number 3 for me. So
Great movie.
fantastic flick. I could babble on about this one for a long time if you wanted to, but you get the idea. It's another one of those set-driven movies, right? And it's just an observation thriller. Something's going on, something's not right, and takes a Canadian to piss off Jimmy Stewart when he got a broken leg. Like, no.
Wow.
Hey,
You
Raymond
said
Burr,
it, Doc.
man.
It wasn't anybody else who fired that shot.
No, I didn't. That was not. Yeah.
I think that eventually led to Ironside is one thing, but that's a different story, I guess. But that has a lot of tension in the movie, man. That's and you don't know
Much
where it's
so.
going because he's showing you so much as you're watching it, because that's what he's observing as you watch it. So
Mhm.
you don't even know if you're looking at the right spot sometimes either. So I love the distraction of it. I love, maybe I'm missing something as you're trying to solve this as you watch it, man. And it's still got that vibe, whatever, we're talking 60 years later here, 60, 70 years later.
Right.
It's still got that feeling toward it with the movie. That's kind of a masterpiece, man. that's something special about a flick if you can still do that after all this time. Leads to my number two. Number two is here only because it's not number one. Number two is Psycho. What can you say, man? This guy did everything right with this movie. Like a real horror flick. This was, this is top 5 horror flick of all time kind of thing, man. So,
Yep.
And that's like 1960. So this is, there's a reason why it's black and white. There's a reason why the build up behind this, Anthony Perkins, it's almost creepier every time you watch it.
It is.
and we've all seen it like 20, 30, 40 times, whatever the number is. It doesn't matter. It's just all this because she steals 40K because she's trying to make a better life and make her, this is my out and nobody will find me here, and this is the way it was back then. And it's all phone book driven. There's no internet, there's no nothing like this, and she thinks she's got out and she runs into a taxidermist here who's running a freaking hotel, and it's like, talk about the wrong dude on the wrong street at the wrong
That's
time.
exactly right. Yep.
You ran into Psycho, and Anthony Perkins was Psycho. It's kind of a shame he got overlooked on like some acting accolades for this flick because he's fantastic.
Psycho's also a shame he got pigeonholed into that.
Yeah.
He was typecast for
role,
sure.
Which is, he was a really accomplished actor before that. So
yeah, but yeah, Psycho's number 2, man, for me.
Excellent. All right, JJ, 5 through 2.
Okay, number 5, I went with North by Northwest from 1959. Cary Grant, Eva St. Marie in that one. I love the swooping helicopter. Airplane that comes swooping in. That whole scene is just breathtaking about how he just uses the cinematic suspense in that one. Couple little fun notes about that movie as well. If people watch it close enough, you'll notice. So it's just on my mind, the first early film facts I ever learned. Leonard Maltin showed to me, I think, on the movie channel back in the 80s. There's a kid that actually puts his ears into his before the gunshot goes off in the cafeteria. There's a kid that actually
That's correct.
Ears in his fingers in his ears before the shot because he's expecting it. That's in the movie as well. But what makes it really fun is that I love that end suspense scene on Mount Rushmore. It's almost in a way, whenever I watch that movie, I think like, knowing Hitchcock, was he going to put an animated sequence of having one of the presidents sneeze or something like that? That was always what went through my mind. But yeah, the whole suspense of that movie is just unreal. And then what cannot be said for number 4 is Strangers on a Train. It actually was Throw Mama from the Train that got me to watch that movie. And,
is that right?
Is that right?
Awesome. Yeah. And I never seen it before that. And I was like, whoa, this is better than the other one. I watched it with the other one. But no, that whole idea that you got me on the crane and crisscross, and it was like, just kind of really out there. Number 3 is Psycho. 3 and 2, I just kept going back and whatever. Kind of just put on the paper. Psycho, master of horror, 1960. Let's face it, the Bates Motel is considered to be a piece of nostalgia. Don't stay there, And the shower scene, the way it was shot in black and white, unbelievable film. And just again, you can watch it over and over and over again. Again, true test of a real film and a master. Rear Window is number 2 for me. Again, like you were saying before, you're brilliant all this stuff and you're watching it all. And I really didn't experience this film. I saw it in a video, but I was able to, Art House here in town re-aired it, I think in the early 90s. And I was able to go with my buds and we went to go see it. And that's when I saw the full picturesque and wow, my mind's taking in this, that, this, and this. Mm-hmm. Where's the story? Where are we going with this? And then, just something as simple as that whole the flash bulbs, and when he's trying to get the guys, get that guy, because all he had was because he had the broken leg, and the way that was all suspenseful, and the way it all came down with him in the end, I was like, whoa, what kind of movie was that? I want to see. It was all like, that film reminded me of an amusement park ride, because after it was done, I wanted to go back through and go see it again right away after seeing that film. And to me, that's an amazing, a sign of an amazing film. So that's my number 2. My 5 through 2.
Very good. All right, Brian, you're up.
Very good.
Number 5 for me, I've got Shadow of a Doubt.
Nice.
I am a Teresa Wright fan. I am a Joseph Cotten fan. I thought this was great. Of course, they share the same name. So you can imagine that there was a little bit of a belovedness, that she always idolized her Uncle Charlie, and then to find out he's slowly but surely that he's a monster. But even her character, if you think about it, she was willing to negotiate letting him go away scot-free, despite the things he's done, as long as he would just go away, so that it wouldn't actually like ruin her mom's vision of what he actually is.
Yeah,
her younger brother really is. So she was willing to have some type of her moral compass move a little bit in that movie, which I thought was fantastic about it. It was a really good movie. First time I saw it was in film class. I had never even heard of the film before, and then I was like, yeah, this is a top 5 for me. Number 4 for me is Psycho. It's part of the Bird trilogy. A lot of bird imagery in that. There's birds hanging on the wall. Of course, there's some stuffed birds. Her name is Marion Crane. At one point, Norman mentions that she eats like a bird. There's all sorts of little things that go on in there that you just get to pick up on. But nothing is better than that infamous black and white shower scene that probably scared 80% of American women from showering alone. They probably make their husbands stand outside the door while they were showering for months after that. Everything is just great. Number 3 for me, I've got Rear Window. I mean, it's been touched upon greatly here. This one was one that I wasn't really sure whether it was going to get this high for me. So there was, I told Rich before that I had rewatched the top 3 because I wanted to make sure I got the sequence right. I thought Jimmy Stewart was great in this. I mean, to think that you're coming out on top when you go from 1 broken leg to 2 broken legs by the end of the movie is odd, but the very fact that you could have died, I guess, is it's 2 broken legs is a win.
Right. Yeah, that's a win, is right.
We talked about Hitchcock pushing the envelope. His girlfriend was an underwear salesman in this. I mean, that's kind of, Hitchcock's always doing stuff like that, right? He's always thinking with some other part of himself. And
there you go.
That's Hitchcock. That's what he does. Number 2 for me, though, is Vertigo. And I always make the joke, because it's that one scene in there where he's kind of, he's been diagnosed with his agoraphobia, right? For fear of heights, I believe, right? And he's like, I look up, I look down, I look up, I look down. And it's still like, I always do that little joke all the time. Like whenever I think about this movie, I always, that thing that comes to mind. But really, like everybody said, it's like that's touched upon the beginning of the film, but it doesn't have a tremendous amount to do with what actually the film is about, which is a woman pretending to be a reincarnation of another woman and then pretending to be a different woman altogether halfway through the film. On top of that, it's kind of this weird thing going on. So, but I enjoyed it very much. I love the camera shots where he likes to do this pull the dolly back on the camera while zooming in at the same time effect. I think Hitchcock's great for that. Yeah. And he definitely used that technique here very well to kind of simulate some of the stuff that we as the audience members should experience from that point of view. So number 2, Vertigo.
Nice.
Very good.
All right. My number 5 is one that nobody's had, and another early Hitchcock mystery, and that's The Lady Vanishes, 1938.
Wow.
I really enjoy this movie. It's kind of a comedy thriller, great dialogue, clever plot, all the ingredients of a Hitchcock film. There's villains and spies, and this woman, I guess she's around 30 years old, played by Margaret Lockwood. She befriends this older woman on the train. Again, the train. They have a chat, they have tea together, and all of a sudden the elderly lady disappears. And nobody on the train can verify that she was even there. So it's one of these psychological things. Is Margaret Lockwood dreaming? Is she making it up? Did she really see this person? And eventually all is revealed. So it's a good film for early Hitchcock fans to see. And this is where he would go later in his career with Mistaken Identity and all that stuff. So number 4 is one that everybody seems to have, Strangers on a Train. Love this movie. Almost a film noir kind of feel to it on the train. This Robert Walker, who would die like 6 months after the film. He never really had much of a career. He died in the same year it was released in 1951. So it's unfortunate, but he's excellent in this movie, playing against Farley Granger. Farley Granger is the tennis player, and Robert Walker is this psycho who they meet on the train, strangers on a train. And Farley Granger wants to marry a senator's daughter, but his wife won't give him a divorce. So they're talking about, well, what if you took care of this person for me, and I'll do this for you, and all this exchanging of murders, and no one would suspect. We live in different towns, like you guys mentioned. There's no connection. It would be random killings. The plot's interesting. One murder gets committed, of course, and then the other guy's kind of reluctant. There's a great sequence in the amusement park where the one murder takes place, and you can actually see it in the reflection of the sunglasses or the glasses.
Mhm.
It's really
Glasses,
well
yeah.
done. Again, it's where Hitchcock puts the camera and what he shows you that separates him from other filmmakers, I think. So this is a fantastic movie. Number 3 is Psycho. You guys have really talked about it. This one actually lives up to the hype. Everybody says you got to see Psycho. It'll scare the bejesus out of you. Well, and guess
It
what? It
does.
does, and it will. Black and white, 1960. Regardless, I think it's probably, if I had to chart it, the second scariest movie of all time after The Exorcist. It's right there with it. The Exorcist is in a league of its own, but
True.
Psycho would be in that next little tier there. And Anthony Perkins, absolutely perfect as this Weasley wimp of the psycho, the taxidermist in this Bates Motel. The unassuming, you would say, oh, this guy's harmless. Well, guess what? You got another thing coming. That shower scene, chilling, creepy. He's got, like, I guess he's spying, and it's just like Doc said. Janet Leigh happened to go to the wrong place at the wrong time,
Yep.
and she paid the ultimate price. This is a flat out masterpiece of a film. Number 2, Rear Window. Jimmy Stewart, Grace Kelly, and Raymond Burr. Let's not forget him as the
Yep.
bad guy across the
Yes.
way. He's
I was trying not to give away. That's why
he's
I held back
fantastic.
on that one,
Well, I'm
actually.
giving it away. What the heck?
Yeah,
Spoiler
Voyeuristic.
alert.
he was.
Spoiler. Flash. Spoiler alert. You got the voyeuristic Alfred Hitchcock again, where Jimmy Stewart's got the broken leg. It's from his hip down to his toes. He can't move. He's in the wheelchair. And all he's got to do besides snoozing and reading a book is look across the way, across the courtyard there, and seeing this other apartment. Everybody's got their windows open. He's naming nicknames for all these people. Miss Holly Golightly or whatever. I forget what his names are.
Torso lady, right?
Yeah.
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 He's checking everybody out in their business. And then finally he comes upon what he thinks is a murder being committed. And he tries to convince others. Very tense. And, there's phone calls made. It's just an entertaining film. Grace Kelly, probably the most beautiful she's ever been in a film. I mean, Jesus,
Yeah, she's
what a gorgeous woman.
Totally.
Jimmy Stewart is perfectly cast in this. I can't imagine anybody else doing the role. As much as, we like Cary Grant, Gregory Peck, and some of those other great actors, Jimmy Stewart owns this role, and Raymond Burr as the villain. So that's my number 2. So we're down to the big enchilada, number 1.
And
Doc, lay it on us.
For the record, though, I think Psycho would be number 1 if somehow or another we could get Anthony Perkins to spin his head 360 degrees.
Yeah. Right, we could
that would
get
just be the nudge.
we could
Just the
get
nudge it needs.
Janet Leigh to spew some green pea soup. That would be
Yeah.
awesome. Too. What do you got, Doc?
My number 1, I think it's probably been mentioned somewhere, I think in the past year or so, but what I think is Hitchcock's best movie, for me, it's North by Northwest. it's a classic flick, man. And this is, I talked previously about, different settings for him, right? So, he can give you that, the play feel in some of his movies, be it Rope or something like that, or Rear Window, which I love. So, but Northwest is the complete opposite. This is pretty, it's a grand movie, there's lots of big scenes, big sets and everything else that goes with this. High-end movie, man, for
It is.
A Mistaken Identity with Grant and everything else, and even Marie Saint, James Mason, and
James
Martin
Mason.
Landau playing the heavy, James Mason I love anyway. So another great villain in a Hitchcock flick here is Mason. So fantastic actor in his own right, and Cary Grant is he's the man here, man. So this is lots of twists, lots of turns. It's fantastic pace and everything else in this movie too. And there is lots of twists and turns, and a pretty high tense thriller mystery Hitchcock flick. It's my favorite Hitchcock flick, man. It's my number one.
Great choice, JJ. I know you mentioned North by Northwest, so we know that's not your number one.
Yeah.
What do you have?
Well, I'm a big, people don't know, just get to know me a little bit. I'm really big into silent film. And the reason why I like silent film so much is because silent film, they were forced to show you that less is more. They were forced to work with this really tight area, and they had to be creative with what they had. And that's why I picked for number one, Rope. And the reason why I picked number one for Rope, okay, let's deal with the premise of this movie. The premise is freaky as all can be. Two guys that want to commit a murder just for the ultimate sake of trying to get away with the murder.
Right.
And we start off with, we know nothing about this character. Then we watch him getting choked in the beginning of the movie, goes into the that case or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And now this guy's going to take it to another level, and we're going to eat off this thing, and we're going to make a buffet out of it. Okay. And now we're going to do this. Now, how the film was shot was actually the part that always impressed me about it. One, it's very simple. We're only on one stage the entire time, yet we're creating this whole 88-minute suspense film out of this. And we also created it in 10-minute shots going from point to point. Reason why 10 minutes? At that time, that's all that would fit in the film roll. And then he would actually stop it, and then he would cut it. Right. But if you watch the film really closely, he does these really cool things, even with that medium, which is unbelievable to me, where he goes into the when the one guy grabs the rope and pulls it out of the, threatens the guy, pull it, and he pulls the rope out, and the one character has the rope, goes inside the kitchen, and you see him, the door swings back and forth, and he goes like this with the rope and drops it into this drawer and closes it, and then it goes behind you, like, he's got the rope, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And to me, it just created this whole suspense and this whole thing with using music and using the piano. Every time that guy got nervous, he kept hitting the piano keys, kept going on him, he kept going on, and he created this whole, by the end of the movie, like, this guy's going to figure it out. He's going to figure out what these guys actually did, and it's going to end that way. That's why, to me, it's always been my number one Hitchcock movie. I can watch it over and over again. I always find something new every time I watch this movie. And to me, it's always been probably one of the best psychological thrillers. And to show you kind of psychological effect, just real quick, I don't mean to babble, but I never forgotten this. I watched it like 2 days before on beta, and then my dad watched it with my stepmom, I think at the time, and said that she was freaked out and couldn't sleep all night because of the premise of the movie. Yeah. I just remember laughing and going, really, okay, I guess the film had some effect on somebody. So that's kind of why I picked it for number one. That's why I kind of justified, because I know you guys all had it much higher on your list.
Yeah, it's a great choice.
It's always been probably the most number one significant Hitchcock film for me of all time. And that's
I think it's a great choice. It's filmmaking genius, really, when you look at it. So it's a wonderful choice. What do you got, Brian? Number one.
Quickly, I'll just throw out the four honorable mentions that I had. I had 39 Steps, I had Frenzy, I had Lifeboat, and I had Marnie, which wasn't mentioned here because I wanted to complete the Bird trilogy. So I threw Marnie in there as well, and plus I had our boy Connery in there too. So, and that's Connery right. Though, since we're on the subject here, let's remember that Connery is just a British hack of our boy Cary Grant, right? North by
There you go.
Northwest is my number one film. There's no doubt about it. It's not only my number one Hitchcock film, it's my favorite film of all time.
There you
So,
go.
and that's beating out The Godfather. So that's a big deal for me. So
Yeah.
just always love the film. I can watch it over and over. Cary Grant has always had this great charisma about him that I've always liked. The cast is great. James Mason's another one of those sophisticated villains that I like to see. Very young Martin Landau in the movie, which is really cool. And I know that they had this on look, I like it because it seems like there's these this infatuation too with like having big scenes at like national monuments, and it just makes it kind of even bigger when you think about that, so it's kind of cool. I love all the little scenes, like the airplane scenes, just a classic scene. I mean, if you really like slowed it down and watched it really carefully, it's a little hokey by today's standards, but for back then, that was like some top edge stuff, and
Totally.
I love the movie. I mean, I watched it a couple times in the last couple weeks just to make sure that it was definitely still my number one. It's by a landslide, guys. So I couldn't leave it out. There you go.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's his best film too. It's my number one.
Okay. Cool.
Like you said, the different scenes, the Grand Central Station scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It lasts a long time, but it's worth the whole setup. Love that. Love the cornfield scene with the crop duster, and tremendous. There's one guy on the corner, I think, when he goes out there and for a bus.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And it's even that scene's a slow build of suspense.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very, very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
He's literally in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing to be seen except cornfields.
Yeah.
And Jason's house.
I love the Mount Rushmore scene at the end as well. And Cary Grant, if I'm saying Jimmy Stewart was born to play in Rear Window, Cary Grant was born for this role. This is perfect for him.
Oh yeah, that was Cary at his best.
The suave, sophisticated leading man, charming as hell. Eva Marie Saint too is as gorgeous as the classy femme fatale. She's got it going on here. So I just love the way this movie's put together. It works not only as a suspense thriller, it's sexy, it's romantic, it's got the dialogue. It's an action adventure film because they are going from set to set to set. They're all over the place. James Mason, I have that written down, sophisticated villain. Just an all-time classic. I mean, what can you say? I just want to throw some honorable mentions while I'm at it. Brian did his. A lot of your guys' top 10 movies show up on my honorable mentions, and I did a list about a year ago for Letterboxd, which is a website, and I had some of these on my top 10. Notorious, Vertigo, which did not make my list. I'm the only one that didn't have it. I don't like that whole Kim Novak thing going on where I don't know. There's something about that movie that bothers me. I know it's beautifully shot and it's a classic, and all the film critics think it's maybe his masterpiece, but I don't know. There's something that I'm not connecting to there. I like Rebecca, Frenzy, Spellbound, Suspicion. They're all on my honorable mention list. Just wanted to throw those in. And some of the other stuff, I like Dial M for Murder too. And Martin Scorsese, one of his favorite Hitchcock movies is called The Wrong Man from 1956 or 57 with Henry Fonda.
56.
Yeah, Henry Fonda and Vera Miles. He loves that movie. That's one he always points to. And I watched it a few times. I think it's an above average Hitchcock. I don't put it in the top echelon like some of these other films. Just personal taste, I guess.
It is that way. I had Catch a Thief. I had Suspicion.
Yeah, they're great.
The Birds didn't make it for me.
Right.
And Rebecca, The Birds. Yeah, I couldn't. The Birds. I mean, for the reason Brian gave.
Yeah,
that's the reason
put the birds on
too,
there.
JJ.
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, you take the birds away. There isn't much to this movie, and
it was just a sentimental pick.
Yeah.
I almost had The Wrong Man on my list, but I had to back it out because I was, for the exact reason Rich just said, I was going for it because Scorsese liked it, not because JJ liked it, and that's why I had to back it out.
Yeah, but I watched Scorsese talk about it many times. Actually, he always brings it up. in film criticism, and he just thinks it's a masterpiece, and I don't. So I had to leave it off. And there's more that we're forgetting here from the middle
Totally.
part.
Oh yeah, there's 80 films.
Yeah.
The I Confess was a good pick. I was glad to see
Yeah,
somebody.
that was
pick
very
that
good.
one.
Who had that? JJU?
JJ
Yeah.
He
had
did.
that.
They did it.
That's a good pick.
That was
I
a nice
love that
film.
movie.
So
What
very
I
good.
really like too about Hitchcock, I don't think he gets enough credit for it, is he's able to look past what social norms say that he should do. Is because Farley Granger was open bisexual.
Yep.
He was very open about it, and Hitchcock he didn't hold back on hiring him for big films anyway.
No.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think that's a big testament. And he went, he bucked the system there. A lot of people would just turn their backs on,
Condell also. Yeah.
Montgomery Clift and everything else.
Montgomery Clift, there's
Hitchcock
another
wasn't
one.
like that, right?
There
Yeah.
you go.
So,
Also, should
yeah.
mention there, he always had a good score in his movies, man. His
Oh, big
music in his
time.
movies
Oh yeah.
was really, really it. I mean, he really used it right in his movies.
The thing with Hitchcock and in most of his films, and all you could say the music, it's there for a reason, and
Yeah.
it's not just there to be this thing in the background. And as much as I love Spike Lee films, sometimes in some of his films, like why we had this music in the background, it's on way too loud and I can't even hear the dialogue. Whereas some movies like I go back to Rope, I mean, where he uses the piano and just keeps building and building and building and building and building. And these scores that he comes up with are just amazing to me. And it always fits the movie and just works into the plot. And it's there for a reason. It makes it really cool.
How about that chilling music in Psycho too, when the stabbing
Totally.
takes place?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, that's like iconic. That's all time.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
even to a Chevy Chase. I mean, that's how many movies have we seen that in Spoofed, in Vacation? We've seen it spoofed and all this stuff where he's always going, So
Yeah, absolutely. And not only did he make, an inordinate amount of movies, how about the series he had on TV every week too?
yeah,
In the 60s,
That's right.
early 60s. I mean, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, that was a big deal back then.
and he made a comeback in my era, in the 80s too. They made a comeback because it was they also had Amazing Stories, and then they would air Alfred Hitchcock Presents right after that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So glad
That
we
was
were able to
Spielberg.
do this. Awesome job, guys. Appreciate
Yep.
it.
Very good.
We're going to do Al Pacino in a couple weeks just to tease everybody out there. Another actor that we all love, and we're going to prep everybody with be on the lookout in about 2 weeks for Al Pacino's top 10 movies. But in the meantime, I want to thank Brian, Doc, JJ. Please sub these guys up. Be on the lookout. Leave some comments. Give us your own top 10. I'm sure you'll have some stuff that we overlooked. And we appreciate everybody watching. Leave the comments, like, subscribe to all the channels. And until next time, we will see you later. Take care, everybody. Bye.